Welcome to Cody in the Cinema. Today I'm discussing some weekend watches that I viewed all in physical media form. It's my favorite way to watch movies, and I think the best way. And the first of these was a rewatch I hadn't seen in many, many years, only on a low quality DVD, and boy did I enjoy it. The same year I was born, 1987's Fatal Attraction, with Michael Douglas and Glenn Close in a legendary performance. Now, this was nominated for multiple Academy Awards, Best Director, Best Picture, of course, Best Actress with Glenn Close. But the premise is very simple. It's not much of a spoiler here to talk about an affair that goes wrong between Michael Douglas, a really full of himself corporate suit, and someone he works with, played by Glenn Close. And the film, something I had noticed in the first watch was how well, the foreshadowing is used throughout the film. I mean, there is a use of water, steam, pressure boiling, elevator scenes, lots of stuff that pays off, and all of the imagery kind of comes full circle. The intimate scenes aren't particularly fun to watch. What I mean is they're quite unpleasant. It's gross, it's dirty, it's always sleazy as you watch it. There's no glorification of the topic. And what I really like about Fatal Attraction is how it cast both characters as villains. I think at one point, Glenn Close may have been considered a villain just herself, but by many, but Michael Douglas is an absolutely awful person who's opportunistic and really probably only learns because of his particular circumstances. There are plenty of people in the world who only learn when something personally affects them, and that's a terrible way to live life. And so I really enjoyed the picture. The acting's great. The script is great. It's a little over the top at times, but not in a way that I think really takes too much away from the picture. And I'm really glad I have this. This is something I would rewatch every now and again. So if you like Fatal Attraction, you'll have to let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I love the slipcover on this with the red line below. I think Paramount's been doing a good job with their presentation in general on their media. I've been looking at Terms of Endearment for a while. Maybe I might get that one. Haven't seen that one in forever as well. The second film I watched was a complete blind buy and just something I've looked at every so often when I've walked by Barnes & Noble, which I'm sure some of you do if you go out physical media shopping. You think, well, I really like that. And I did enjoy this picture quite a bit. This is maybe the second or third Alec Guiness comedy I've seen called The Ladykillers. And The Ladykillers is a terrifically original, fun film about a group of would-be gangster bandit robbers who trick an old woman in her home as if they're musicians. And they stay up in the room and they play this recording of music, and of course part of the comedy is watching them pretend to use instruments right whenever she tries to come in the room. And we get to see how the whole robbery and heist plays out. All the comic talent here is really good. Alec Guinness is funny. Peter Sellers is in this, and he's good in his roles. But the oldest woman here who played this little old woman, who I guess is Cecil Parker, maybe. Actually don't know the name of the old woman, but she was excellent in this. The right amount of restraint. There are points where all of the ladies come together. These old ladies come together in a room, and then you got these gangsters in this crowd. It's funny physical comedy. There's great physical comedy again with all these birds that are annoying and frustrate our lady killers here, as it were, because part of the premise is, well, they have to kill this old lady, as a part of their gangster ruse. There's a terrific use of a train that is shown very early on and has some good payoffs, and it's just a pleasant watch overall. If you haven't seen this in 4K, this is shot in Technicolor, so it's really one of those where that 4K restoration shines. There's a shot in here I remember of one of the old ladies' hat with all the little flowers and stuff in it. The colors really popped off on that one, and this is just an excellent presentation all around. As far as a fairly light comedy goes, light British comedy, this is not always my first choice, but I certainly did enjoy The Ladykillers, and I would watch this again. If you haven't seen it, I would put it on your list. Good movie overall. The other thing I did was I picked up a piece of a collection piece that I haven't watched anything from in a while. Sometimes I think subconsciously I tell myself, if I go through my Severin, all the Hauntsby Hours Volume 2, if I go through it all too quickly, then I'll have this piece of media, and I'll have paid this money, and then I'll be through it and I'll be sad. But nothing could be farther from the truth. I've seen, I think, 4 films out of this now, I really enjoyed all three that I saw this weekend. One that I really was in the mood for some Florida horror. I love Florida-based horror. And this is about a man named Royce who meets up with Booker T in a film called The Enchanted. And I don't know if this is quite exactly a horror film. It's more of a Florida backwoods character study that happens to have a few creepy horror elements or supernatural elements. But in the process of going back home and learning about this area where he used to live and be, he meets these people called I think they're called the Purgies or the Purdies. And they have something mysterious about them. The film hints early on what that might be. It is, could they be supernatural? Could it have to do with the animal world? We don't really know exactly what that is. And he's discouraged from getting too close to them because they may be dangerous or they may not be able to stick around because they might be whatever the supernatural suggests there. And he does get involved with the community. And there's also this animal threat that lurks throughout all of the scenes, no matter what the characters are doing. The dialogue here is absolutely terrific and entertaining and funny, and that's the best part of the film. It's almost like the supernatural elements and all of that works well, and I like how it incorporates the mythology based around these bird things that we see at some point in the picture. But the very best part of it is actually just kind of the banter, I think, between the characters, Booker and Royce. It's a really fun to watch movie, and it's not super scary, and I really did enjoy it. The second film I watched that was maybe even a little better, I don't know, they're both pretty good films, but this one's one that I think probably is a horror classic for me. It's called The City of the Dead. Now, this has Christopher Lee in a supporting role, and basically he is a professor teaching about witchcraft, and one of his students decides to go find this town that has been suggested by Christopher Lee's character, and when she arrives there, she starts to realize it's a little almost like too spooky with witchcraft history, and you get to kind of see the folk horror blend in that way organically. There is a female character in this film who is so scary to me and eerie and weird and creepy, and it plays such a good role in the film. We meet her in the town. We meet a few women in the town. We meet a character who has some books. We meet a character who has an inn, a hotel, whatever you want to call it. And talking around spoilers, you really do get that good witchcraft haunted payoff throughout the film. And Christopher Lee's roles are pretty memorable as well, particularly his dialogue. He always has that strong voice and that commanding sense of presence on the screen. I really enjoyed those aspects of it. The black and white creepy shadows. There's a throwback scene to the Salem witch times approximately era. That scene is really well done. It's almost, I think it could almost compete with something like one of the Dreyer films, Day of Wrath, in terms of how that is played out. Very, very good stuff, very good use of horror. I really recommend you see City of the Dead. And my favorite, actually, maybe that was my favorite, but I think the best of these I've seen so far was Baconiko, A Vengeful Spirit. So I also watched that, and this is talked about in the booklet as well. This is the story of, a ghost cat, maybe. A ghost cat myth. There are several couples in here who are separated by the reality of rampant, unchecked authoritarianism and kingships, where maybe a king wants a young lady and it breaks up a possible marriage or happiness for a couple. And this ghost cat gets wrapped up into this in the form of a vengeful spirit. Again, another great use of black and white shadows. Blocking is strong in this film. There are good long shots of like a distance, places you can barely see, with creepy images hanging around any corner, apparitions, hallucinations. It's a very disorienting film, and I really was creeped out by it among these. Baconiko, A Vengeful Spirit. I thought of all of these that have kind of really dealt with the folk horror that I've seen in the film so far, I thought this did the absolute most with the idea of pulling real danger from stories that people have told in the past. I just thought it was incredibly effective. So those are my watches of the weekend. It's been a really good one. It's nice whenever everything you watch is just something you really enjoy. What are some things you've been watching on physical media or anywhere that you want to share? If you do like the content here and want to click the like button, that'll help grow the channel, and consider subscribing if you haven't done that already. I talk about physical media, Criterion Collection, Westerns, lots of things. And we'll see you next time on Cody in the Cinema.